Ladies and gentlemen, we are inching closer and closer to kicking off week 2 of the college football season for the NC State Wolfpack. But over the course of this week, it slowly started to smell like, is that up, dog?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And I'll tell you this much, it's not the dog that you think it is. What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, there's more dedication, more attention to detail. There's just simply more everything inside each and every Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I am Grayson Boone. I'm going to fly this thing solo here for us on Thursday. Kenton was unable to sit down and record, so he will be back on Friday, not to worry. We have Kenton's keys on Friday. We have our final thoughts and predictions ahead of this UVA matchup on our Friday show. But that leads me into our discussion here on Thursday. There's a dog that I've been smelling this week, and it's not the stuff you find in the grass. There's an underdog situation for the NC State Wolfpack that I believe NC State is home underdogs against Virginia this week. Now, that's not reflected per se in the betting lines because NC State currently still is a 2.5-point favorite. But if you look a little bit deeper, I think you might see what I'm getting at here. So usually at this point of the week, you see college football factions, they put out their picks for the entire slate of the upcoming week. And NCAA Football Nation 247 is the first graphic that I'll show you here. I'll put that up on the screen now. This one in particular, all of these picks are against the spread, and it's a very busy graphic, so I'll just tell you exactly what you need to be looking for. As you see at the very top, Louisville and James Madison will play on Friday night, and the spread for that one, Louisville is favored by 16 points. So the one underneath of that, that's us. NC State and the Virginia Cavaliers will play at noon on Saturday. Currently, NC State is favored by 2.5 points on FanDuel. We use FanDuel on this program. But that also translates to just 3 whole points. It's virtually the same thing. 2.5 and 3, more or less the same thing. So NC State's favored by 3. But you see left to right here, there's 5 different pickers. 4 of them are taking Virginia against the spread. They're taking Virginia +3, so either to lose by less than 3 points or just win the game outright. To me, that's fascinating. One, because I think the line in itself is a little bit low. Me personally, I'd probably set it at like 5.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. 2.5 does seem a little low. And that leads me into a bigger thought like, okay, so is Vegas very impressed with UVA putting up 48 points on Coastal? Is Coastal bad? Is Coastal good? I don't think we know yet. Is Vegas discouraged by what they saw last week with NC State playing ECU? Is that why the line is relatively low, all things considered? It's a really interesting line of 2.5, and I'll touch more on that here in just a second. The second graphic I will show you here, this comes from College Football Tracker on Twitter. Same deal, but all of these picks, these are straight up. So nothing to do with the spread. These are just straight up pick'ems. Left to right, 5 out of 6 of these guys, actually, we have a repeat offender. CFB Home is in here twice. 5 out of 6 of these guys have chosen UVA over the NC State Wolfpack, straight up. So as you can see, it's getting to a point here over the course of this week. Virginia's building a lot of buzz that people think they're going to go on the road. They're going to come to Raleigh, North Carolina, and they're going to win in Carter Finley Stadium. Just kind of reinforcing my earlier point, are they looking at 48-7 last week for UVA and thinking, oh, this Virginia team is different. I think they can go on the road and shock NC State. They can put up enough points, and based on what we saw from NC State's offense last week, I don't know if they can play catch-up. I think to a certain degree that is what's happening, and obviously Virginia did put out earlier this week that their quarterback, Chandler Morris, will be a full go. He will not be hindered at all. I guess we'll see, by that AC joint injury to his left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder. So Virginia is going to be at a full go, so to speak. I mean, they are missing still several pieces that we disclosed yesterday as well. Their top linebacker and a couple offensive linemen. And yet NC State is still only a 2.5-point favorite. And if you total these two graphics together, 9 of 11 of these pickers are picking against NC State in this game. So now that leads me to the point on the odds here. Looking on FanDuel, NC State is a 2.5-point favorite, but look at this money line situation. Virginia is only plus 110 money line. NC State is minus 132. Translation for that, that's pretty damn close to it just being like a coin flip, a 50-50 coin flip. When it is a 50-50 coin flip, typically it's plus 100 and minus 100 for both teams. You're right on the brink of that. I also am intrigued by the over-under for this, 53.5. I'm inclined to believe that this might be a high-scoring affair. And I know what you're saying. Listen, Grayson, there's no way. We watched the NC State offense fumble around and waste opportunity after opportunity and only put up 24 against ECU. I know. But what I also said over the course of the offseason, I wouldn't at all be surprised if NC State finds themselves in situations where they have to be ultra aggressive on offense. And you might also be saying to that, that's impossible. We know who the head coach is. He's not going to let that happen. I guess we might have to find out because Virginia, they're coming to Raleigh to score points. Virginia believes, like truly believes, they're going to come in here almost like waltz in here and win this game. They're confident. They're confident in Chandler Morris. They're confident in their offense. They're confident in their defense because our offense was maybe a little shaky last week. So I think this is suddenly turning into a much bigger game than any of us would have ever gave it credit for a couple weeks ago. I mean, basically the whole offseason, I think you could put it that way as well. If you are somebody that's been looking at the over-under or the 6.5 win total for NC State, this is not one that you can afford to let get away. And even if you're not looking at that at all, this is still not one that you can afford to let get away. So I say all that to say, I think we're in for a very competitive, like a tight game, like a really exciting game on Saturday. I really, truly do. Like when you see Virginia on your schedule as NC State, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but typically it just does not move the needle. It just seems to be a little bit of a sleeper. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. This might even be a game where NC State has to like fight back and struggle to win in the third and fourth quarter because it's a good game, not because we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So if I'm in the NC State locker room and I'm the captains, I'm the players, I'm Coach Dorn, I'm the rest of the staff, I'm anyone involved in the program inside of the Murphy Center, I would just go ahead and consider myself to be a home underdog here. A lot of the country believes that Virginia is going to win this game. NC State prototypically is extremely strong at home. They also have a long history of not losing their non-conference games at home. I forget the stat, but they flashed it on the television screen last week when we played ECU, but it's like a big number and then 2. Like Coach Dorn has only lost 2 non-conference games at home. So that also bodes well in our favor here. You got to handle business if you're NC State. You cannot allow a very confident Virginia to come in here and play with house money and win and take your house money. That cannot happen. So if I'm NC State, go ahead and consider yourself doubted. Go ahead and consider the law of the wolf, even when the expectations are that maybe you're in trouble or maybe you don't have any expectations at all. This is a perfect situation where you show up and you have something to prove. Virginia being just a 2.5-point underdog, even though, again, me personally, I think I'd flip it. I'll tell you something else that I meant to already say on here. You get 3 points on the spread for being the home team. So NC State has 2.5. That reads to me that if this game were to be played at a neutral site, Virginia might even be favored. So if I'm NC State, I run with that. Go ahead and consider yourself the underdog. Go ahead and consider yourself to be doubted at home against Virginia, respectfully or disrespectfully. You need to take this to heart and take it personally. You cannot afford to lose this game. Coming up next, I'm going to provide a couple additional thoughts about what else happened in the ACC from week 1 and how that might affect NC State's schedule in the future. More on this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Thursday sponsor is Upside. Wolfpack fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, you don't need to. You're leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use our limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an additional 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 per year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, you might think it sounds too good to be true, but I promise you, I'm here to tell you, it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and several other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using our limited time promo code FOOTBALL for an additional 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Our second Thursday sponsor is Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not about just playing the game, it's about redefining it. Because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go the extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep the game moving forward. This past week against ECU, wide receiver Wesley Grimes helped to define the game. He had 4 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. Of course, that 48-yard touchdown down the seam from CJ Bailey, it set Carter Finley on fire. That's what keeps fans and players alike moving forward. They're always chasing that next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Middle portion here of our Thursday show. We did a Around the ACC yesterday on Wednesday's show. Of course, we had to take some time to shout out the clown show that was in Chapel Hill on Monday evening. Had a couple people ask us about our other thoughts about what else happened in the ACC, so I'll go ahead and provide my thoughts here. If you're a fan of the ACC squad shows, we talked about it a good bit. Kenton has his thoughts on there. I did not give mine on there, so I'll give you mine here. I'll start with Clemson. Clemson, who is perceived to be the powerhouse in the ACC this season, well, they lost. They lost the rights to Death Valley, losing to the LSU Tigers 17-10. I was pretty shocked that Clemson went very stale on offense in this one. And there's been so much talk about Cade Klubnik leveling up his game. And I think I've already told the story on here. When Kenton and I were sitting at ACC kickoff and I said, I have a take for y'all. I think Klubnik might be able to compete for the Heisman. And they looked at me like I had 3 different heads, and that wasn't a hot take at all. But based on what I saw on Saturday, that looked like the Cade Klubnik that we've all become accustomed to. When the lights get super bright, he just can't seem to be the guy that gets it done. So Clemson obviously suffered a very brutal loss to LSU. You had Dabo and Brian Kelly chirping back and forth. I think Clemson's going to be fine. I think it's very easy to throw your arms up and wonder what the hell's going on after week 1. But Clemson, if we know anything about Clemson, they're going to right this ship quick, fast, and in a hurry. If you remember back to last season, Clemson opened the season against Georgia. That game also did not go the way that they wanted it to. But where did they end up at the end of the year? They were the ACC champion, and they were playing in the college football playoff. So that clearly is very much still on the table for Clemson. I suspect that they will regain their power status, even though I don't think they've even lost it yet. Clemson's going to be fine, and I think they will sit atop the ACC for more than likely the remainder of the season. Alabama playing against Florida State, and Florida State mollywops them. That has to be the biggest shock, not just in the ACC, but across the country for everybody that played this past Saturday. 31-17, the Seminoles put B2A. I was shocked on a multitude of levels. One, because I guess this means Florida State might be back. Again, week 1 overreaction, but if they take how they played in that game and they parlay it into the rest of the season, maybe they can compete with Clemson for an ACC title, possibly with some college football playoff hopes. It's there. If they can keep that up, it would be very much there. But over the course of the entire offseason, the quarterback for Florida State, Thomas Castellanos, at least we all thought at the time that he was taking pages out of a media relations for dummies. He was challenging Alabama left and right, saying that Nick Saban was not there to save them and Alabama would not be able to stop them. And they know what they have. They're ready to go to war. They're going to beat Alabama. To back all of that up in week 1 against Alabama, right here and right now, I need to apologize to Thomas Castellanos because it appears that I was unfamiliar with your game. I had zero faith that he was going to be able to back that up. I had zero faith that Florida State was going to win this game. From everything we've seen in the last decade plus, if you taunt Alabama in the slightest, it ain't going to end well for you. Castellanos to taunt them not just once, but like several times, and then wave it in their face as he wins in week 1. He's selling t-shirts that says Nick can't save you. Oh my God. Like, we're either looking at the complete resurgence of Florida State, or you're looking at the complete fall off, the end of the Roman Empire that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And perhaps both might be true. But Florida State, all of a sudden, tying this back to NC State, you see the immediate relevance this win now has for the Wolfpack. We have Florida State on our schedule. They got to come to Raleigh. Now, prototypically, Raleigh has been a house of horrors for the Seminoles of Florida State. But if Florida State is hell on wheels this year, that game, I think, just got a lot more interesting. And for many of us who are predicting 7-5 or 8-4, I believe a lot of us have that Florida State game as a win. After what you saw against Alabama, is it still a win? I don't know. I think for right now, I'm going to hold there because that's still, 2-3 months away. But that game just suddenly got a whole lot more interesting there at the end of the year for NC State. Another big game over the weekend was Notre Dame at Miami, and we also have Miami on our schedule. We got to go on the road for that one. Miami to come out victorious, 27-24 over Notre Dame. I believe, at least I haven't seen anyone pick NC State over Miami that late in the season on the road, but if you did, perhaps you're now reconsidering that one as well. And I do want to say this. I am someone that took the under on Notre Dame's 10.5 win total because I think when you're replacing your quarterback, they have a lot of talent around him. And CJ Carr, actually, I thought he looked pretty good on the road. That's just such a big ask of him in his first career start to win on the road against a top 10 Miami team. I was picking Miami in this game. They ended up coming out with the win. And I think Miami also now just got a whole lot better than people wanted to believe that they could be this year. The biggest concern with Miami last year was the defense. Conversely, they had Cam Ward in the top offense in the country. They're putting up 45 plus a game. So at times you didn't feel it as much, but those games they lost against Syracuse, they lost against Georgia Tech, it cost them a chance to play in Charlotte and to play in the CFP. And it seems to me, based on what I saw against Notre Dame, they may have fixed a lot of those problems. Jeremiah Love, the running back for Notre Dame, he might be the best running back in the country, and he barely got the ball against Miami. And when he did get the ball, Miami snuffed him out. Jeremiah Love did not score. I don't think he had more than 60 yards rushing, maybe even if off the top of my mind here. So I think Miami now, they suddenly become a legit contender in the ACC. So I think Miami too now, they may have evolved very rapidly into another contender for the ACC race. I think you got Clemson. I think you got Miami. I think you got Florida State. And my fourth team that I'd certainly keep in the mix is Louisville. They put up 51 points in their week one game over Eastern Kentucky. Those are probably the top four teams that I see right now. We know the Dirty Foot Club is nowhere close to the top four. We talked about them on Wednesday's show. But NC State, you got to play Notre Dame. You got to play Georgia Tech. You got to play Florida State. You got to play Miami. All four of those games, all four of those teams, I think, looked a lot better than perhaps what we expected them to look like in 2025. So I don't know. Kenton and I actually had an episode not that long ago where I was looking at the schedule and I was like, I don't know. It could be somewhat manageable. And I think after week one, it's like, okay, I think I'll wait to reserve the rest of my judgment. I'll wait for those games to get here, and then we'll see what we get. UVA this week, but I think you can't help but wonder, what's Florida State actually going to look like in November? What's Miami going to look like in November? What's Georgia Tech going to look like in November? They had an impressive road win out at Colorado in the house that Deion Sanders built. They won by 7, 27-20. Georgia Tech, I think we already knew was going to be pretty good. In fact, I think I picked that one as a loss from jump. But we've got some pretty quality teams on this schedule, and NC State's going to have to really dig deep and find themselves here pretty quickly. You got Virginia's non-conference, but right after that, you're on the road back-to-back games at Wake and at Duke. At least by week 4, NC State's got to have a pretty freaking good idea of who they are and what they got. And coming up next, I'm going to give you my precursor to some of Kenton's keys and our final thoughts predictions for Friday's show. I'm going to give you who I perceive to be the most important player for NC State coming up on Saturday. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our third Thursday sponsor is DoorDash. It's almost time for the weekend, so it's also time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. We know that Wesley Grimes delivered when it mattered the most, but I think you can also throw in Teddy Hoffman. 2 wide receivers with breakout performances for NC State. Wesley Grimes had the long 48-yard touchdown. Teddy Hoffman had 93 receiving yards in his first ever collegiate game. 2 of these guys came through with no hesitation and no delay. And if you plan on watching week after week, perhaps these performances will not be a fluke. And just like Teddy Hoffman and Wesley Grimes delivered for the Wolfpack, with DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order, stacking it up all season long. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is now through November the 18th. Last couple minutes of our Thursday show. Wanted to spend a couple times with a precursor to our Friday show. Obviously, Kenton will be back. He's going to have Kenton's keys for us. We're going to have our final thoughts, predictions ahead of Saturday's kickoff against UVA. So I want to spend a couple minutes talking about who I perceive to be the biggest impact player on Saturday for the NC State Wolfpack. We all know, watching the defense last week, which the defense was a delightful surprise against ECU, Sebastian Harsh and Kean Sloan, two of our transfer edge players, had phenomenal games against the Pirates. It seems like every defensive series we had out there, those two, 54 and 8, were jumping off of the screen. And so I want to show you this tweet. Comes from the NFL draft files that we were tagged in, ironically enough, and it was highlighting some game tape from Kean Sloan. As you can see, I have some of his game tape here playing on the screen. Now, they help you out by circling him with that red marker. The crazy part is like, I don't even think they have to do that, because you can tell, you can physically see him, a difference in speed and agility. Like, he just annihilated Katin Hauser on that speed option. I'll wait till that circles back again to comment more on it. Like, he's just in every play. He's blowing up every play. He's repetitively getting into the backfield, forcing Hauser out of the pocket. This is everything you want and more in like an edge player / they call it a jackbacker. It's like that hybrid linebacker position. Just diving in the mix with that motor that he has. The motor you see on Kean Sloan is something that you just simply cannot teach. Like, you can improve somebody's speed, you can improve their agility, but pure motor is just that's God-given. Like, that's natural ability. And it's kind of wild that this kid was playing at Utah State, with all due respect. Like, this is a P4 defender. Any way you want to cut it or slice it, this guy can play against every opponent we have on the schedule this year. Like, he is just disrupting every run, getting in the backfield right there. That play right there just completely explodes into Katin Hauser on that speed option that unfortunately ECU scored on. This is impressive game tape. And so the reason I wanted to spend some time on Kean Sloan here, and why he is, I believe, the most impactful player coming up this Saturday for NC State. Chandler Morris, as we spoke about yesterday, he's an absolute gunslinger. He reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield, the way that he can stand in the pocket, deliver darts, even get outside the pocket, extend a play when he needs to. Forcing pressure in the backfield is going to be one of the most important things for NC State if they do want to win this game. And Kean Sloan, he's going to spearhead that effort. Him and Sebastian Harsh, I'd imagine, they're going to lead the way. So you got to get that again this weekend against Virginia, because if you're not getting into the backfield, if the NC State defense allows Morris to get into his quick passing game and he's just entirely comfortable back there in the pocket, he's going to get surgical on us. I think in that case, this game could wind up looking a lot like the second half against ECU, where Hauser put up monstrous numbers. He threw for, I think, over 300 yards just in the second half. You cannot allow Chandler Morris to get whatever he wants on Saturday. And keep in mind, like, yeah, Coastal's defense was not hitting on much, but Chandler Morris threw for, I think it was like 260 yards in about a half of play. Don't think he's incapable because he plays for Virginia and Virginia's not a threat. I can promise you this year, they might be more of a threat than we've seen from them in 10 plus years. Like, this is a legitimate must win. This is a big game, which is, again, that's kind of crazy. It's Virginia. I know this is a big game for NC State. It's much bigger than I think anyone wants to give it credit for. We're only a 3-point favorite. We're at home. You have got to defend Carter Finley. You have got to get in the backfield. You have got to force Chandler Morris to make mistakes. And I'll wrap all this up by saying Kean Sloan is going to be the spearhead of those efforts. I have him as the most impactful player for NC State on Saturday. All right, that'll do it for us here on Thursday. Again, Kenton will be back here on Friday with Kenton's Keys. Thank you all so much for joining me here flying solo on Thursday. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you tomorrow. Big Friday show ahead of us. Until then, go Pack.